Tickets are at redactedtour.com. You can also vote for your city to be added at redactedtour.com. Those California shows will sell out, so grab your tickets. I'll be right back with Jesse Ventura. Welcome back to Redacted Tonight VIP. I'm still Lee Camp. Without further ado, let's get to the host of The World According to Jesse, Governor Jesse Ventura. Governor, thank you for joining me. It's an honor.
It's an honor to be here because I'll tell you, Lee, you have one of the funniest shows on television, bar none.
Thank you so much.
No, seriously, you and John Oliver.
It means a lot.
Yeah, you're cut from the same mold. In many cases, you're better than he is.
And I don't have the writers he's got either. So
there you go.
But I wanted to talk about something that we started to get into before we started filming here, which is, you know, and it speaks to why you and I both have shows at this network, RT America, because you actually were signed on to do a big show with MSNBC, and you made me laugh. You told me because I brought this up in an episode, and you said I got it wrong. And they got rid of you, basically. They got rid of you. Why did they get rid of you? You tell the story.
They got rid of me because I opposed the invasion of Iraq.
Right.
And they had just also hired Phil Donahue, and he was their top-rated show, and he likewise opposed the invasion of Iraq. But our government allowed no media at all to speak out against the invasion of Iraq. You were told it's off limits, basically. And because I had an attitude of opposing the war, they pulled Phil's show and they wouldn't allow mine on.
Right.
And I was handcuffed because I signed a contract for 3 years, and I couldn't do any cable television. I couldn't do any satellite TV, no news shows. I was handcuffed with tape, and I had to honor the contract. But the part I laughed about you was, you said that, boy, how do you get a job where they pay you $1 million to keep quiet?
Yeah.
And I had to inform you that it was closer to 10 times that to keep quiet.
I mean, that goes to show how much the corporate media does not want people to be against war.
Exactly.
They're willing to pay that amount of money.
Yes, they were willing to buy me off to silence me. Same with Phil.
Yeah.
Phil, and I don't know what Phil was working for, but Phil was a big name, and this was his big comeback. So I'm sure Phil's contract was not small. Both of us got pulled from the air. Both of us basically couldn't talk to anyone because they owned us. And I'm a person that honor a contract.
Yeah.
And so I then bought my home in Mexico, and I almost named it Casa MSNBC. But I was angry at them, and I didn't want them to be the name of my home.
Yeah, well, it just goes to show there is no place that you are on the American networks that you are allowed to be against war and speak about these issues. And you know, that's why you and I have a show here. And
the other thing, if I can interject,
yeah, go ahead.
They also, too, control what you talk about.
Right.
I mean, here at RT, I have freedom.
Right.
I talk about what I, Jesse Ventura, want to talk about.
Exactly.
When I had this short-lived little thing with them, every day I got told I would be talking about the Lacey Peterson murder. And that was coming from on high, and I kept refusing. I wouldn't do it.
Which, for those who don't recall, that was just, it was, you know, it's a tragedy, but it was one woman who was killed by her husband out in California.
Yeah.
And it was a, you know, ratings bonanza, but it's nothing. It's a tabloid story.
There's 10,000 murders a year.
Yeah.
Why was this one so exceptional? Well, to mainstream media, it's exceptional because they turned it into a big ratings gain. Right. It's all about entertainment. On their side. Entertain, entertain, entertain. And that's why you should be there, because you entertain so damn good.
But the reason, thank you, but the reason I'm not there is because I talk about these issues of war and peace. And,
that's right.
You know, I want to get into some of that. You're a veteran. You've been very outspoken about opposing our endless bombing, endless war around the world. I wanted to ask you about how you view Donald Trump on these issues of war, because he's largely taken the gloves off the military. They're bombing more than ever before. They drop a bomb on average every 12 minutes. But on certain things, like North Korea, he seems to be the dove. He seems to be the only one in the room that says, hey, maybe we can have peace with North Korea. He has backed some of the people who want to bomb off of Iran a little bit. But, you know, it's both
crazy.
sides.
It's crazy because he's unpredictable.
Yeah.
And that's what makes him difficult, is because he's unpredictable. You don't know what he's going to do from day to day. the thing, I got a new quote that I'll break it on your show.
Yeah.
Because I always finish on my show with a quote. My new quotes are this: I don't want a religious person telling me about government, and I don't want a government person telling me about religion. And I also don't want a draft dodger telling me about patriotism.
Great point. Yeah, him, what a foot spurs or something he said he had?
Yeah, bone spurs.
Bone
but
spurs.
No, and I'm offended over that on this aspect. This is what really troubles me, is that these war hawks, and Trump so far has shown some restraint, but he also hasn't shown it with Iran. Because this whole Iran conflict is because we pulled out of the deal.
Yeah.
That's what started. So
we ripped it up and expected them to keep stick by it.
Well, whatever. But we pulled out.
Yeah.
And now, because Iran's allegedly misbehaving, we're shocked.
Yeah.
Well, we broke the deal like
did.
we always do. Talk to the Native Americans. Ask them how many deals we've broke with them.
Yeah.
And you know, it's the Native Americans can truly tell us, hey, go back to where you came from.
Well, that's a great point. Is why would anyone trust the deals that America's signing when we ripped up the Iran deal? Of course, we've never kept it with the Native Americans, and now we're telling North Korea, we're going to make a deal with you if you get rid of your nukes. It's going to be Gaddafi all over again.
We have no credibility, in my opinion, anywhere when it comes to doing things like that, the United States government, because treaties mean nothing. I mean, right now, let's get into this. One of my biggest pet peeves. How the hell can Trump sit there and say he can bomb Afghanistan and wipe them off the face of the earth in 10 days? Yep. Excuse me. The Constitution says Congress has to debate and vote to go to war. When did it happen in our country where now the president can just take us to war?
Yeah.
And our Constitution was clear about that. The founding fathers were irate in the fact that one person would never take us to war. I come back from Mexico, Lee, a year and a half ago, and I find out we pumped 40 missiles into Syria. And the people are cheering?
Yeah.
Excuse me. Humanitarian reasons? I spent 6 years in the Navy SEALs. I ain't never seen a missile deliver food, medicine, blankets. They blow up and kill things. That's all they do. You can't equate that to humanitarian. And yet he's allowed to do this without a declaration of war.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Congress, because that was going to be another question I had for you. It seems like Congress has just completely, wiped their hands of dealing with these issues. They don't know what the Pentagon's doing. They don't know the number of bombs being dropped all over the world, and $1 trillion unaccounted for at the Pentagon. And the question is, has the military-industrial complex basically taken over? I mean, are they?
Yeah.
Because it's like a soft coup.
It's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. Our entire economy is a war-based economy.
Yeah.
We have to be at war to keep the economy machine moving. Now, let me run for president for a minute on your show.
Okay.
I would continue with war, but a different war. If I became president, the war would be on renewable energy. And I would want to, because I think the biggest issue facing man right now is climate. And all these other wars are going to pale because we're going to get killed. Armageddon's going to come. Yeah. It ain't going to be religious bringing it. It'll be us doing it to ourselves, destroying our planet.
You mean war on fossil fuels, right?
Yes.
And you were talking about you've been down by the ocean and you've seen it change over the years, right? In
10 years, I live down in the Baja off the grid. My beaches don't have nobody. I can walk naked on them. and now, within 10 years, when I walk the beach, me and my wife, we come back with our pockets full of plastic. And this isn't plastic being dumped, thrown out of a car. This is plastic that's being regurgitated by the ocean and being thrown up back on us. It's like the ocean is saying, don't give me your garbage, keep it.
Yeah.
And they're giving it back because you can't.
It back out.
You have a hard time determining it's plastic because it's not clear anymore. It's been in salt water for who knows how long. And they claim plastic and the currents have been put together in the Pacific. There's a conglomeration of them the size of Texas.
Right. It's got twice the IQ, too. Yeah, it's just out there
and
in the ocean.
Floating around out there.
Yeah.
And people need to understand all these petty wars. If we lose the oceans, Lee, we die. It's that simple.
It amazes me people don't seem to see that with the insect populations declining, the animal populations declining, we need those to survive.
And all they care, oh, we're going back to coal. Oh, that's brilliant.
It's incredible.
You know, you got the sun up there. It's only half burned out. It's good for another 4.5 billion years. Let's tap it a little.
We should use it a little bit.
Let's tap it a little bit.
We should use it a little bit.
And instead, we're going, and I'm going to say something else to you. How come no one brings up the fact everything Donald Trump is right out of Hitler's playbook?
Yeah.
Hitler raised the economy a little bit. Then what did he do? He took a group of people, marginalized them, got the Germans to believe they were the fault of all the problems, and then started what? Night raids, where they were picking people up at night,
raids.
just like ice raids. When are people going to read history, Lee, and understand the old cliche's right? If you don't read history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Well, and what's incredible is and I said this under Obama, before we knew Trump was on the horizon, I said, even if you love Obama, Obama and Bush gave the next president a dictator's toolkit.
Yes.
Endless surveillance, police state, prison industrial complex.
Because
it was a dictator's toolkit.
As we say here, they are one party.
Yeah.
They just have two entities to it.
Right.
But it's one party.
It's all gone on. It maybe has ramped up under Trump, but Obama deported more than any president ever had, and Trump's now trying to ramp it up even more.
Hey, Lee, what would you think about a third party with the names Ventura and Kennedy?
Sounds good to me. You were the last third party governor, weren't you? I don't know.
Well, Angus King of Maine.
Oh, okay.
Angus King of Maine, who's now a senator. He just didn't get all the press I did. He actually was 4 years in front of me. He did 8 years and was 4 years in front of me.
So I know it's a no-no on the corporate networks, but you think it'd be okay to have third parties in the debates, I imagine.
Absolutely. Are you kidding me? I showed the world in Minnesota, Lee, at the primary, I was polling 9%. I was allowed in the debates. There were 3 of them, major debates. I went from 9% to winning with 37% in under 10 weeks, in less than 8 weeks.
10 weeks.
In 10 weeks, because I was allowed to debate. If a third-party candidate would be allowed in the debates next June, when you get down to one party, the other party, and then allow a third party in the debate, you allow them with 3 people. I mean, you're looking at 20 now. Can't they allow 3 later?
Right.
If you allow 3 people in those debates, I'm almost guarantee you the third party candidate would win.
Well, I think
because I'll tell you what else. Because by next year at this time, the people are going to hate them all. It's too soon. I want to pass a law. You can't even campaign till the year of the election.
Oh, I would love that. It goes on way too long. And it covers up everything important that's going on in the world.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And money spent. Look at the money wasted.
Billions.
Why can't you have a campaign start the year, January to November?
One of my favorite facts, I remember the largest donor, Adelson, gave $100 million. That's more than the entire Labour Party in the UK spent on their last election. One guy, Adelson.
Well, let's throw this out. Donald Trump and them hate socialists, right? They've named these 4 women. Yet he spends the most money on a socialist entity where all his heroes come from, the United States military. Total socialism, people. The U.S. military. So you have socialism protecting the capitalism, and the capitalism couldn't survive without the protection of the socialism.
That's a great point. And when these banks collapse after taking everybody's homes and everything, they look to socialism to bail them out.
And not only that, where do all our alleged heroes come from? Socialism. The military.
The military.
And they're active participants in socialism. Everybody in the military is a socialist.
$1 trillion a year, and then they look to cut food stamps because that's the real issue. That's why we can't balance the budget, is because people are getting food stamps.
Or we might have to help some immigrants down on the border.
And that's also the socialism thing is also the hatred towards Venezuela and Cuba and trying to upend their government down there. But like you said, we have plenty of socialism here.
The United States military. That's what we spend the most money on, and the president's asking for more. How come no one's not calling him a socialist? He wants to spend all this money on a pure socialist endeavor.
And it must drive you nuts that with $1 trillion going to the military, they'll spend it on $1 million bombs, but then they won't give the soldiers the armor they need or the vehicle armor they need.
Well, that's normal.
Yeah.
That nothing's changed there. It's like when I walk through airports and that, and I wear my hats and all that, I'll always get people today coming up and thanking me for my service. And I have to warn them, if I'm in a bad mood, lots of times I'll look back, and please take this with a grain of salt, but I'll look at them and say, well, that's nice, but you're 50 years too late. You know, we Vietnam veterans were spit on. Yeah. We were the politicians and the media managed to convince the world that the veteran was at the fault of the Vietnam War. And that's why they're going overboard today, because the public knows what they did to the Vietnam vets. So they're really going overboard with the vets today in laying all this heroic stuff on them.
It's the leaders.
You are not a hero. Let me tell you this, Lee, in my opinion, and I got this from a 28-year Marine Corps sergeant too. Military guys are not heroes. They do their jobs. They fulfill a commitment they take to defend the Constitution. They are not heroes, in my opinion. I'll tell you why. Because a hero saves lives. I was never taught to save a life. There was nothing in my training that ever went to saving a life. If you're in the U.S. military, you're trained to take lives. And in my opinion, you cannot be a hero and take a life. A hero saves lives. You can still respect them and give them all the accolades, but I don't want to be called a hero. And this, my friend, this 28-year Marine felt the same way as me. That heroes save lives. We're not trained to save lives in the military.
Yeah.
It's an unfortunate thing, but you're not.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And so I don't like this hero, you know. And not only that, the bigger picture. War is man at his worst.
Yeah.
And so we're going to say that man at his worst produces the heroes?
We have to get back to war as a last resort instead of a first resort. Seems to be how we use it.
Exactly. And all the video games that glorify it and make it seem, oh, this is wonderful. I can tell you this, Lee. I was 18 years old and I was sent over to kill Vietnamese I didn't even know and had never done anything to me.
Pleasure to have you on the show. Keep doing what you're doing.
It's all we know how to do.
That's our show, but if you want more, get my live stand-up comedy special at leecampcomedyspecial.com, and you can check out my podcast, Common Censored. Until next time, good night, and keep fighting.